So, Davey and I have been married for about 21 years now. And for the majority of that, we've worked together in some capacity. Even in our dating lives, we were always together. And something he prayed for when we were dating is that God would allow us to always work together. And that is something that we've seen throughout our marriage. So when you talk about how do I see his leadership in the home or him modeling Christ, I see it in the home and I'm also seeing it on the job. One of the things I love about my husband is his consistency. He is the same person no matter what. He's that level-headed, easygoing person, very honest and so warm and caring. A lot of times, because his heart is so heavy for people and for the things of God, he feels that deeply and he shows it. He's not a person that would come necessarily and be in the limelight, but he's always someone in the background pushing and doing whatever is needed to help. He doesn't need recognition. In fact, he runs from it 100% of the time. He does it because he's led to. He feels led to. He feels he must. I've said many times, I'm so fortunate because I don't just have a best friend, but I have someone that I can look up to. And that's so important to me, for my daughter to have an example of a godly leader, a good man. I wasn't one of those persons who was fortunate to grow up with a dad in the home. And so it was something very important to me, not only to have a dad, but to have someone that was present and someone who could exemplify Jesus Christ. And so he's not perfect, but he's a good man.
Tony's very easygoing, but at home he is kind of a different Tony from what other people know. I think that although he is gentle, he is still firm, and that's how Christ is. And although he says and he calls out when you're wrong, he still extends you so much grace. And you could never not feel Tony's love in our home. I think about times when I would come home and I'd be like, wait, this house is a mess, you're being a horrible wife. But there are also times when he just sits there and he doesn't care. But there are also times when he picks up and he starts cleaning, doing those type of stuff for me. And just, I think about even my daughter, when I had my daughter, having a child was a big step for me. But as my daughter is 2 now, I would say that was the best decision me and Tony ever made. There's been nights when I don't wake up. I don't wake up in the middle of the night. And I don't know that my daughter was up. Because Tony is there in the night. Just dealing with her and dealing with it. And he wakes up in the day, and sometimes he wouldn't even say. I would have to go look back on the camera and see what happened, how I sleep through the crying. And this is from newborn years to now, that she is 2. And he's never said, well, you need to wake up or you need to do this. Even times when I'm too tired from work, he'll get her ready, take her to school, and come home, or one on the way home say, well, what you want for breakfast? Stuff like that is stuff that it seems probably so small to him, but for me, as someone who is very independent and someone who does not like to ask for help, he just is just always there and always helping me behind the scenes. And so that for me is how he leads. He gives me rest and he gives me grace. and he gives me love.
So I think one of the ways is just always being there to support us, especially me in some of the toughest decisions, and just taking the lead. Last year I would have been going through some stuff, and when I talked to him about it, he was the one that said, Sid, you need to look at yourself. You got this. You could handle this. You could do all things through Christ who strengthens you, and I'll be there to support you in any way and every way. You just need to talk to the Lord about it. You talk to me about it, and we can take this head on.
At home, I've seen my husband be patient with all of us, the children and me. I've seen him show his love through his hard work and just overall being present, being there, being a godly example to the family.
So one of the things that I prayed for when I was thinking about marriage and the person that I would marry, I had a list of what I wanted in a person. And one of the things I had was that he had to be a giver. And let's say I had 10 things. My husband had, let's say 7.5, because if I say more than that, he could think he's too much, and we have to keep him level-headed. But from day one, I never had to have an argument with my husband about giving to the Lord. And that was something that was so important to me. I never had to fight and say, well, our tithe is important, or, we always had that same mind that we couldn't outgive God. And many times that came at a great sacrifice. Many times that came, with a level of sacrifice I can't even explain, but it always came from a good place. And, when we look at our family budget, even though he would say I don't follow it that closely, the part that I do pay attention to is our giving. And it's always been something that we remain focused on. It's always been something that we challenge ourselves with, because we have been blessed beyond measure by the Lord. And it's because of that mindset that we can't outgive God. And so to have a man that sees that as a priority is truly a blessing for me. He doesn't hide his finances from the Lord, and he doesn't hide his finances from me. I talk to wives quite often, and they talk about, or I hear stories about women who say their husband had a piece of land here, or he had some money in this bank account here, or, he had this investment here and they didn't know about it. My husband updates me on a monthly basis with everything. And half of the things we have, he don't even know we have it. Not because I ain't tried to tell him, he don't remember, but that ain't the point. It's not hidden from me. It's never cloaked. It's for me. It's for my benefit. And that makes me feel so seen. That makes me feel so comfortable to know that he trusts me, and the Bible talks about in Proverbs, the heart of a husband trusts in her so that there's no need of spoil. But that heart, that sacrificial heart has always been a blessing to me, and I'm so thankful for that.
I think that's daily. It's a daily choice for me, especially within the past, I would say 3 years of my marriage, where I decided to take a step back from my corporate career and go into entrepreneurship. My husband has always been an entrepreneur, and he's always been a creative, but when I stepped into that role, he honestly, I feel like he sacrificed so much, because the job that I do is so tedious and so time consuming, and sometimes it's an all day, sometimes 2-3 days where it's just like I'm just getting up and going. Sometimes he'll groan or complain, and that's expected, but he's always there, and I haven't, there has not been a time when he wasn't there. He would have even sacrificed sometimes. I feel as though sometimes he sacrifices, well, he always sacrifices his sleep again for my daughter. whilst I am sleeping, but he sacrifices sometimes his own happiness for us, and the things that he wants. I remember recently we were having a discussion and we were talking about money and just me. If I was to pivot from my job now, where would that take us? And his response was, I don't need for anything. Once he said, once you and Zoe are good, then I am happy and I have everything I need. And so for me, it's like, no matter what or where life takes us, he has just always been giving of his time and his energy towards me, and that's something that I always appreciate.
He definitely did a lot in terms of sacrificing for the family. That would have been modeled when I decided to go back to school and pursue my master's degree. It was a point in time where we were trying to get our home sorted out, and the opportunity came for me to attend the university, and I was like, boy, I don't think we should do it. Just focus on the house first, and then I'll go back. And he's like, no, you can do this. I got it. Whatever happens with the house, whatever happens with school, I got you. Just focus on what you need to do to make yourself better or to market yourself the way you want to be as a nurse. And I got everything. And I was like, okay then. All right. I like that.
We went through a season about 1.5 years or almost 2 years of trying to build our home. And there were times in there where, you needed extra money here and there for something. And I've seen him really put those issues to God in prayer and work extremely hard, make sacrifices when it came to financial things to make sure that we had the home that we wanted, the home that our children and that I wanted and we needed. And so he did what he had to do there, particularly to make sure that we had the home which we have now.
One way that Rondell supports my dreams and callings outside of the home is just supporting me in the roles that I would have been doing if I were at home while I'm outside doing the other things that I like to do, like my businesses. So he will take on doing homework with the kids or making a meal, throwing out the trash, washing the dishes, anything like that. As simple as it sounds, it just allows me to be able to flow and grow into my new journey while he is there with the children and being that role model or standing in the gap for me where I am unable to at that time.
Other than my full-time job, I also have a business, and it can be time consuming. I can do it from home, but it always is a stretch. So he always encourages me. He helps me if I want to get a new machine. He'll give me the space to do that, and he makes sure that I can do what I need to do. He helps me out on the job sometimes, and so he is very supportive when it comes to things that I want to do outside of the home.
I would say you have to trust God to first trust your husband and his leadership. For me, I think before I got married, I had no intentions of ever being married. But one night I wrote down, I said, Lord, if it is in your will for me to have a husband, I give my list back to you. I give all these things that I want back to you, and hand me your best. And I remember when God revealed to me that Tony would be my husband, I was like, okay. And I always joke around. I say, well, God told me, but he didn't tell Tony. But I would tell them to trust God. Trust God in making that decision for you. Be at peace with God first. And then once you have a potential person, there must be peace, and that God cannot be amongst chaos. And I see that just daily in my life. Like, people see me and they would see probably like I doing a bunch of stuff and I doing like things that would drive a normal person crazy. but I'm at peace because the man who I under, my husband, he is peace. He is peaceful to me. He doesn't bring me any chaos. And so I would say trust God in making the best decision for you. Yeah, and I would also say, like, sometimes you just have to be wise with your speech. Learn that some things are better left not said, and some things should be said in a different way from what you're thinking. Again, before I met my husband, I was a hothead. I would kick and scream, but in the 10 years that I know him, I've known him, we've had a hothead argument one time. And that does not mean that my arguments or my thoughts aren't being said, because we do have discussions and we have heated arguments, not heated conversations, not heated arguments, but he leads with love and grace. Again, he just always brings that. He always is calm and he's always peaceful in my home. And so sometimes I have to look at him and say, well, Gina, you can't say that to Tony, right? Like, you can't go in there and even how you're feeling right now, you can't say this particular thing to Tony. So think about how Tony would say it to you. And so that has honestly been very, very helpful. Like, a lot of times, even in my responses to people, I have to fact check with my husband first, and I say, Tony, how does this sound? Like, what does this sound like to you? Like, does this sound, does this sound very aggressive, or does this sound calm? So yeah, I would tell them to trust God in making that decision, but also look for someone who is peaceful, who is calm to you if you are like me. And also, like I said, just be wise with your words, be wise with what you say. Because I also know that, like, even in my marriage, certain things you say could make or break your day, sometimes your week, sometimes your month. So be wise in what you say.
Okay, come in very, very close. You paying attention? Lean in a little bit more. The man that you want is sitting right in front of you. He may not be perfect. He may have some areas that he needs to grow in. But if you take that time and you pray for him, if you take that time and you fast for him, if you take that time and you rub his head and you spoil him, if you take that time and encourage him and speak his language, not your language, his language, the language that he understands, and that could be your touch, that could be your words, that could be quality time. If you take that time to invest that in him, the man that you want is right in front of you. When we get married, we have examples from Hollywood, we have examples from the world of what marriage should look like. And it's false. It is false. It's not a reality. Marriage is hard work. Marriage is two imperfect people with two different views coming together. And if they're smart enough to have God in the center and to seek him, it's something that takes work, that takes time, that takes effort. And so you have to be willing to put in that time. There are going to be a lot of people in your space saying, I give him the energy he gives me. Or, I have my 3-strike systems and after that you out. Or I ain't stupid, I got my own things, because when this man jump up and go, I ain't gonna be left wanted. And, that's what the world says every single day. But marriage is trust, and you have to be willing to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to put in the effort, put in the time, put in the money, put in the sacrifice to make it work. And that man that you want, he doesn't appear at day 1 or day 2 or day 22. He just appears slowly, and he turns into something that you don't even know when it happened exactly. When we first got married, or even when we were dating, there was a time when I realized when we were dating that I was more spiritually strong than my husband, well, my boyfriend, and at the time. And for me, and once again, I didn't come from a home where there was marriage or there was Christian values of that sort. but I made up my mind that I wanted something different for my life. And so when I realized that this boyfriend who I really cared for wasn't reading his Bible the way he should and wasn't seeking the Lord, I decided I was going to end it. And that wasn't easy. That was hard because I had a lot of feelings. You know, the man was fine. He's still fine. The man was fine. But I knew that what I wanted in the future depended on what I did now. I knew that the man that would be the husband to my children would depend on the sacrifices or what I would accept today. And so I decided to end that relationship with the mindset that was it. And I didn't realize at the time how much that challenged my boyfriend, that he had a young woman who cared about him, but cared more about his potential and what her marriage or their future could look like if she accepted him the way he was. Not his pockets, his heart. The pocket could change, you know, but I needed God to be impactful in his life. And so, fast forward, we ended up getting back together after he got his heart together and after God worked out many, many things. And as I sit here now, I'm so happy I did that. I am so happy. I spent those days crying, wetting up my pillow because my heart hurting because I let this good man go because I wanted more. And I look at the man that I have now, and once again, Davey ain't perfect, but I love him and I appreciate him, and I can't see life to him without him. And so, sacrifice and love and commitment and God, that man is right in front of you.